Welcome back, everyone. And here we are on our last step of our journey of having an asset. So, if you think about it, right, we go through the process of purchasing an asset. When we purchase an asset, it's going to be the original cost plus anything needed to get it ready for its intended use. So, that's going to be, if we have to potentially I don't know, say we bought some land and we have to level it in order to be able to put a building on it. Well, we have to level the land to get it ready for its intended use. Okay. Now, say we bought a car or something, and then we go through the process of depreciating it out over its life. Okay. So I have depreciation all throughout. Maybe I have repairs and maintenance. Maybe I, replace the transmission and I get to increase the value of that asset. Bunch of things going on here. Okay. And now we are going to dispose of the asset. And disposal can come in kind of three main different ways. We can either sell it, okay? So typically it's like, hey, I'm done using my car. I'm going to go ahead and sell it. I'm going to try to get $5,000 from it. Maybe I retire it and I'm just like, it's no longer useful and I can't sell it. Personal story, my husband drove a 2007 Mercedes until it could not be driven anymore. He was just surrounded in clouds of smoke every time he tried to drive it. And we were like, we just need to take this to the junkyard. Like, we don't feel good about selling this to anybody. Okay. So we just retired it. Or you can exchange it. So, hey, I'm going to go to a car dealership and I'm going to trade in, right? The car that I'm driving right now. I'm going to get a new one. You're going to give me a little bit of cash. I'm going to give you a little bit of cash. And we both get new, different assets. Okay. So we're going to once again go through this process. The data is the exact same. I have the original cost of my asset, that's $40,000, residual value of 5, estimated service life of 5, and depreciation expense a year. It looks like I use straight line because I did 40 less 5 divided by 5 gives me 7,000 per year, straight line depreciation. Okay. So I have the disposal through a sale that we are going to start with. And here it says that Little King sells the truck at the end of year 3 for $22,000. Okay. So a couple of different things that we need to keep track of is number one, what cash is changing hands? It looks like I'm selling it. So I'm going to start there. Before I even think about anything else, I'm going to say, okay, I know my cash is going up and my cash is going up by $22,000. So now what I'm going to ask myself is, what is this asset worth to me? Well, that probably requires that I know the amount of depreciation that I've taken on it. So I sell it at the end of year 3. So that means in year 1, I had depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation of 7 and 7. At the end of year 2, I had depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation of 7 and 7. Well, now at the end of year 3, I got to make sure this is up to date. So I got to take more depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation of 7 and 7. So my total accumulated depreciation on this truck is going to be $21,000. Okay. So what is the original cost of my asset? What is this asset on my book for? Well, I have truck that I purchased for $40,000. I take accumulated depreciation of 21, so I have a net book value of 19. So a couple of different things or ways to think about this is I have something that's worth 19,000 to me that I'm getting 22,000 for. Well, that probably tells me that I have a gain, right? Well, yeah, of course it does. Okay. So I'm going to have a gain because I am getting cash of 22,000 for something that's worth, right, 19. So I have a gain of 3,000. Okay, so I've done okay. Now, though, from a journal entry perspective, I could also plug or fill this gain. And what I mean by that is I'm getting cash of $22,000. What am I getting cash for? Well, I'm giving up my equipment. And how much is my equipment worth to me? Don't let that confuse you. It's still on my books at 40,000. I have done nothing related to this truck to reduce the value of it. All I've done is house some depreciation and accumulated depreciation. So when I get rid of my equipment, I get rid of my equipment at the full original purchase price. Okay. When I get rid of my equipment, I also get rid of my accumulated depreciation of 21. Okay. So now I have debits of 43,000 versus credits of 40. Well, I have just once again calculated a gain of 3,000. And gains operate very similar, right? They operate super similar to revenues. Okay. So think about what this journal entry tells me. I'm getting $22,000 in cash for something that was worth $19,000 to me. That $19,000 is a net balance between accumulated depreciation and equipment, and I have to get each of those pieces off of my books individually. Okay. Then I'm allowed to solve for or plug my gain down here for 3. Notice I didn't even need to really go through this process up here, as long as I fundamentally understand what the journal entry is telling me related to this purchase or this disposal through a sale. So now think about the same fact pattern, but all of a sudden, I'm only able to sell that truck for $17,000. And again, it's at the end of year 3. So at the end of year 3, my process is still the same. I have equipment that I purchased, or a truck, more specifically for 40. I have accumulated depreciation of 21. See the prior slide, right? We just calculated that out. So something is worth 19,000 to me, but somebody's only giving me cash of 17. So I know that I'm going to have a loss, right? Related to that. I'm going to have a loss equal to my net book value of 19 less what I'm getting for it of 17 of 2,000. But maybe I don't want to do that extra step because I feel really good in my journal entry capabilities. So I know from a journal entry perspective, this person is giving me 17,000 bucks in cash. I'm getting the equipment or the truck off my books for the full 40,000 bucks. I also got to get rid of my accumulated depreciation at the same time. So now I have credits of 40 and debits only equal to 38. So haven't I calculated this same loss right down here that I know I need a debit balance of 2,000 to get this journal entry to balance? Well, yeah, absolutely. Now, what do losses operate similarly to? Well, expenses, right? I know expenses in my expanded accounting equation have a normal debit balance. Well, I'm debiting something, I'm just calling it a loss, but it has the same impact, right? It's going to reduce my net income by $2,000 through this process. Okay, so notice the difference here. The only thing that fundamentally changed was the amount of cash that I got. And then that changed whether I had a gain or a loss, because the equipment is on my books for 19,000 regardless of the amount of cash that I'm receiving for it. Okay, so then the last problem that we have is the retirement of a long-term asset. Okay, so in this case, right, we're not selling it. We're just going through and we're retiring it. When might this happen? If you're in a situation like my husband's car that he just drove it until it could not drive anymore. Or when Little King's truck is totaled in an accident. Like, that's such a bummer, right? So at the end of year 3, they total their car. Well, what is this car worth to me? Don't go through the process of booking depreciation again. We've already done this. This is the same fact pattern in the last 2 slides. We still have this truck that we purchased for 40. We've taken 3 years of depreciation at 7,000 a year for a total of 21,000. So I have a net book balance of 19,000. Okay. So what happens when I total my truck? Well, it means nobody's giving me cash, right? I don't have any cash coming in. So maybe what I do is I'm just like, okay, I guess I got to get this truck off my books for the full 40. And I know you say whenever I get my truck off my books, I better get my depreciation off my books as well. So I reduce my truck and I get rid of my accumulated depreciation. Well, now what? Well, now you just unfortunately have a huge loss, right? Because I have a loss of $19,000 that this truck was worth to me, and now I've totaled it. I don't have it anymore. So again, it's totaled in an accident. I have to take a loss for the full amount. Okay. So again, this is going to reduce my net income because I just unfortunately totaled my car and I didn't get any cash in exchange for it. Okay. So now we've kind of gone through, let me go back to the original slide. We've gone through selling at a gain or a loss. So maybe I'll write that out. Gain/loss. I have retirement. I'm just getting rid of it. And now I have the exchange that I need to think about. So I go to the dealership and I'm like, hey, like I have this truck. I want a new one. Can we figure out a deal here? Well, in this case, it looks like they did figure out some sort of a deal. And Little King is able to exchange the delivery truck at the end of year 3. Stop right there. I am once again going to say this truck, I purchased it for 40. I've taken 3 years of depreciation for a total of accumulated depreciation of 21. So this truck is worth $19,000 to me. Okay. So it looks like I am getting a new truck with a value of $45,000. Little King, or the dealership, gives Little King a trade-in allowance of 23 for the exchange, with the remaining 22,000 paid in cash. Okay, so a couple of things here that I'm going to look at and analyze is you're giving me a trade-in allowance of 23 for something that's only worth 19 to me. So right off the bat, I'm probably going to have a gain of $4,000, right? Because what are you giving me versus what do I have it on my books for? What is it worth to me? Okay. Or why even bother with that process? Because I have to book my journal entry anyway. So I'm asking myself, what fundamentally is happening here? Well, a lot of different moving pieces. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to say, I'm getting a new delivery truck for $45,000. So I'm going to write, hey, I'm getting a truck and it's new and it's $45,000. But now I want to make sure I get my old truck off my books. I don't want to forget to do that. So I'm going to get my old truck off the books for the $40,000. And also the accumulated depreciation of my old truck, I'm getting that off my books for 21. So I know I have this trade-in allowance, but I also know that I got to give them 22,000 in cash. Okay. So now I know cash is changing hands and I have 22,000 bucks in cash. So when I do this and when I book this journal entry, it looks like I have 66,000 in debits, but I only have 62,000 in credits. So how do I make this journal entry balance? Well, I need a $4,000 credit. And again, I know gains operate just like revenues. And I know revenues have a normal credit balance. So all of a sudden, I've just solved for my gain. Okay. So again, you can conceptually walk through, right? Actually calculating out the gain at the beginning. So I would say trade-in allowance of 23,000 less the OG cost of the asset of 40 netted with my accumulated depreciation of 21 should give me book value of 19. So again, you're giving me 23 for something that's only worth 19. All of a sudden I have 4,000 that's going to be a gain. So that 4,000 gets plugged into the journal entry, or I can use it as a plug or a fill figure. Okay. So in summary, when we're going through these different processes, ask yourself, what is the life cycle of an asset? What do I got going on here? Well, it's long term. I'm going to use it for over a year. So I kind of have 3 big things that I know are going to happen regardless. I'm going to purchase the asset and I'm going to get it on my books, right, at the cost plus anything needed to get it ready for its intended use. So I have my truck and my cash going out the door. Throughout the life of my asset, I'm going to have ordinary repairs and maintenance in order to keep it operating at the same level. So I'm going to have an expense. I'm going to have cash. I'm going to have purchases to increase the usefulness of the asset. So maybe I go ahead and get a new transmission in this truck. I increase my truck by the amount of that. I'm also going to depreciate it every year, right? Maybe I book monthly journal entries. Maybe I book yearly. We got to be cognizant of what it tells us our accounting practice to do this is. But I'm going to recognize depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation. Then I'm going to dispose of the asset after I've purchased it, I've used it up. Now I'm ready for something new. So I am going to have to get depreciation up to date to understand the net book value of the asset, because I have to understand what it's worth to me to understand whether I have a gain or loss if I'm trading it in as a sale, or if I'm trading it in, or if I'm just selling it, or what my total loss is if I just dispose of it. And then you capture what's happened, right? Get rid of the asset and associated accumulated depreciation. Have a gain or a loss. Does any cash change hands, right? New asset. There's a lot of different things that could happen here to have the potential to impact this journal entry. So this is a good summary slide of just kind of what you can expect to see with long-term assets. Now, remember though, right, we could also have an intangible asset. Not every asset is touchable, okay? Maybe we have an intangible asset, and for those guys, we recognize something called amortization expense. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time for Chapter 8, which is where we begin our studies of liabilities. So we're going to step to outside of just the asset side of things and start looking at, obligations that we have. So have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.